Good evening, everybody. All right, welcome to another IC Markets webinar. Right, today we will be covering the pre-market live analysis. All right, so remember the disclaimer. Let me see. Okay, yes. Okay, so remember that everything in this webinar is educational in nature and nothing should be construed as investment or trading advice. All right, so please remember to do your own due diligence before you guys trade. Okay. All right, so the agenda for today, we will be covering as usual the high impact news events for the week as well as key technical setups to watch out for. All right, and I'm your host for today. My name is Woon and I'll be going through with you today's pre-markets live analysis. All right, so for the key news events for this coming week ahead. All right, so for Monday, we don't have any high impact news. While Tuesday we have USD job openings. All right, so from my experience, this news itself won't really move the markets that much. However, you might still want to be careful before you guys trade. All right, so then for Wednesday we have AUD and AUD, USD as well as CAD high impact news. All right, so for AUD we have AUD CPI. All right, so you will be careful for when you trade pairs like AUD USD, AUD JPY, etc. all right, then we also have USD ADP non-farm employment change. All right, so usually this is the something like a prerequisite of the unemployment claims on Thursday. All right, so you might want to look at the data for this news. All right, then we also have USD advanced GDP as well as CAD monetary policy report as well as the rate statement. Okay, so for Wednesday it will be very volatile for pairs like USD CAD. all right, and then for Thursday we have USD federal funds rate as well as USD FOMC statement. Okay, so this I would suggest to close your trades before this news, right, because you don't want to be affected by this high impact news. All right, because as we all know, the Feds might actually have a rate cut, right? They might be cutting rates or they might be holding rates. We wouldn't know, right? Then we have USD FOMC press conference right after that, and then CNY, we don't really trade this currency, so you can ignore that. However, we have JPY policy rate and monetary policy statement. Okay, as well as CAD GDP and USD core PCE price index and unemployment claims. Okay, so as you see right here, this ADP non-farm employment change news on Wednesday, right, you can use this data as a reference for the news for the unemployment claims news on Thursday itself. All right, okay, so yes, please remember that Thursday will be extremely volatile. All right, so you might want to stay out of pairs like JPY, USD pairs. Okay, however, if you guys are willing to take the risk, then maybe you want to trade these pairs, right, because it will give you a lot of volatility in the markets. All right, and then lastly for Friday we have USD non-farm employment change. Okay, and then USD unemployment rate. Okay, so we have NFP, and then we have so Friday itself, this NFP, right, first Friday of every month will create a lot of volatility. As we all know, it will easily move 100 pips for gold or any USD pairs. All right, and then we also have USD ISM manufacturing PMI news. Okay, So let's now take a look at the charts, right? Enough of these key news events. Let's move on to let's move on to the charts itself. Okay, analysis on DXY and comment on the past few weeks and its general profile. Just want to get an overall view of its past performance. Okay, sure. Okay, let's take a look at DXY itself. Okay, so we are on, let's take a look at the daily chart for DXY. Okay, let me see. Let's reset. Okay, so for the past few weeks, right, you can see right here the overall picture of DXY. As we all know, the USD currency has been on the downtrend, right, ever since I would say maybe this area, right, April, right. The USD currency hasn't been doing well since April, right. It has been creating lower lows, right. This is the lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high. All right, if you look at the bigger picture, it created a lower low and then a lower high. Okay, so for the general outlook of DXY is basically in a downtrend, right? Because so far, as we can see right here, price created a low, but if you look at the recent price, right, even though price created a lower high, okay, right now, let me zoom in a little bit so that you guys can see. Okay, so even though price created a lower high, right, unable to break past this high previously. Okay, now let's take a look at where DXY might be heading to. Okay, so looking at market structure, created a low here, created a lower high. It is supposed to create a lower low. However, price didn't create a lower low. It actually stopped right here and is now, and it might create a recovery. Okay, so if let's say, right, looking at the news right here, if you see federal funds rate, if you see right here, if the rate decreases, the actual data is less than the forecasted data, means that the USD currency will not be doing good, right? It will actually fall. Okay, so that is one thing that we might be looking out for on Wednesday itself. Okay, so before that, right, we have USD job openings. This might create some kind of bullish momentum towards the upside. Okay, then if you look at H4, right, H4 created a change of character already right here. Okay, so there might be a possibility that DXY might continue going up until this area right here before it falls off. Okay, why I say this area, right? Because if you look at what I would like to do is I will draw a fib over here. Okay, then I will mark all fibs. Okay, then right here, okay, just to show you guys a little trick. Okay, so 71. I usually like to use the where is it? Let me show you guys 0.71. Okay. 0.01. me see, let me take this out. Okay, so I am taking the, okay, look at this supply zone right here. Okay, so this supply zone is quite important because it aligns with the 71% feeble retracement level. I like to use the 71% feeble retracement level, right? A lot of people actually uses maybe 61.8 and 78.6, but for me I like to use the 71%, 71 and 75%. That is my range, right? Through all the back testing, that is where I realize price actually reacts to 71 and 75%, okay, at supply and demand zones. Okay, this is what we call order block as well, right? So why is this an order block? Because we created a breakout structure over here, and then we are taking the last up move before these bearish candles. Okay, so I repeat myself again. We created a breakout structure. Okay, then we are looking at the last bullish candle before all the bearish candles. Okay, then we mark this as our order block. Okay, so just to reset this, alright, DXY, let me just mark it out again. What I am looking at is there might be a pivot point from here. I'm marking this as my pivot point, alright, and then this is my support. Okay, then where is my resistance? My resistance is right here. Let me find a good resistance level. Let me see. Okay, let me mark this out. Yeah, this is my resistance point. Okay, so looking at our pivot point, our pivot point aligns with the 61.8% feeble projection level, right? While our first resistance level aligns with the 78.6% resistance level over here. Okay, then our first support is the previous swing low support level. Okay, it might be a bit close between our pivot point and our first resistance, but it's fine, right? Let me take reference from save. Let me take reference. Oops, give me a sec. Where is my pivot point? I think that's fine. I think this is fine. Let me do a little bit of a reset. Okay, let me see. DXY. Okay, there is a possibility that DXY might actually react to this pivot point instead. Okay, let me just do a little bit of adjustments. Why is because looking at this, right, this is the first reaction of this support level, and then it broke past this support, right? and then it acted as a it reacted to this pivot point as well. So this is a important level because it has multiple touches over here, and then you can see right now price is reacting off this pivot point, rejecting this pivot level over here. Okay, so that's why we could use this as our pivot point. And then where's our first resistance? Our first resistance level is actually this point. Let me mark it out. Okay, 61.8%. Yeah, okay, so this is our first resistance level. All right, this is our first resistance level as it aligns with this 61.8% Fibo projection level. Okay, if price actually comes above this pivot point, then it might actually react to this first resistance level over here. Okay, then as for our support level, we will mark it at this level over here. Let me just adjust. Okay, then let me see if we have any fit levels over here. Okay, it aligns with our 38.2% Fibo retracement level. Alright, you can see right here, if I mark it out, our pivot point aligns with the 38.2% Fibo retracement level over here. Okay, so we are looking at a downward movement, at least to our first support area. Okay, I think it's pretty straightforward, Nick. This is just the overall outlook of DXY, and I hope that you are able to understand the projection for DXY itself, because DXY is I would say it's rather an important reference, right? If you want to trade the other pairs, right? So if let's say you are looking at a downward trend for DXY, right, then obviously you would want to buy for pairs like euro dollar, pound dollar, gold, right? All these pairs. Okay, so now let's move on to euro dollar. Okay, you can see right here, if we are looking at the daily chart, you can see wow, euro dollar has actually been creating a lot of highs, right? So I think there might be a possibility that let me see H4 honestly looks very nice, right? H4 looks very nice. I would have entered right about here, this level over here. But let's see on the daily. On the daily, this looks like a better buy opportunity. This pivot point over here. Yeah, this looks like a nice opportunity. Then this shall be our support, and this shall be our resistance over here. Let me see, where is DXY. Very bullish. Let me look at the RSI. RSI seems fine. Break. I would rather look at a better entry over here. H4 seems nice. This area seems nice for a buy actually. This seems a little bit too far-fetched. Let me see. This could be my resistance, and let me see. Okay, this is, I'm pretty sure this is at the 50% mark, yes. And then let me see. Okay, 78.6. Okay, I think this is fine. 78.6 in 100. Okay, so our pivot point aligns with the 78.6% Fibo projection level, and then our first support aligns with the 50% Fibo retracement level. Alright, so we're expecting price to fall towards our pivot point, and then around this area right here, right, it will have a bounce upwards towards this first resistance area. Why? It's because we have multiple touches right here, so this could be a strong support level for price to rise towards the first resistance area over here. Okay, alright, so I think euro dollar is pretty straightforward as well, so let me just mark this out. Bullish. Okay, as for GBP USD, okay, let me take a look at GBP USD. Okay, GBP USD might be a little bit tricky. Okay, let me see where could be a buy entry. If I put it right here, how many pips is this? Oh, that's too far. That might be a little bit too far. Okay, so this could be our pivot point, right? Then this shall be our first support over here. Then our first resistance will be right over here. Okay, our pivot point, we have chosen this as our pivot point, right? Because we have multiple touches right about here. So this is a strong overlap support level. So there might be a possibility that price would react to this pivot point and then have a bounce towards this first resistance before making any other movements. If, let me take a look, yeah. Because you can see right here, if I turn on the Ichimoku indicator, right, we can see that it is still within this Ichimoku bullish Ichimoku cloud area, right? So if it is still within this bullish Ichimoku cloud, right, there is a higher possibility for it to have a bounce upwards towards this first resistance area. All right. So let's see if we are able to find. I think there is no projection. Let me see. Yeah, there is no projection level. Let me see. Right, there is no projection, but we at the first support area we have 100% Fibo projection level. It might take a while for it to come down here, right? So let's see. There could be a possibility also that price does something like this. Why I say so? Because if you look at the previous pattern, you can see right here, it looks like a head and shoulders pattern. This is the left shoulder. LS is left shoulder. This is the head, and this is RS. RS is the right shoulder. Okay, so once we have this, there could be a possibility for it to actually not respect this overlap support level over here and continue to fall towards this first support area. But if DXY rejects this pivot point, then there might be a possibility for price to bounce off this pivot point. Okay, so this is what we could look at. Let me see. Okay, this is a bullish arrow. Okay, now let's take a look at USD JPY. Okay, so for USD JPY, let me see. Okay, if DXY is going to have a rejection, right? So there is a possibility for USD JPY to also have a rejection as well. Right about this area, let me see. Let's see how this reacts. Well, the daily chart don't really look that good. Overall might still be, let me see. Okay, this could be our support, pivot, resistance. Okay, this could be our yeah, I think this is safer to put it right here. This could be our pivot point, and then this could be our resistance, and this could be our first support. Okay, I think this is suitable. Let me see, first support. Pivot point. Okay, let me see if I'm able to draw. And 61.8. Yes, I think this is safer. This could be a safer option for USD JPY. Let me see. 78.6. Okay. Yes. Okay. So for USD JPY, right, there is a possibility. Number one, if we are looking at DXY right here, DXY is bearish. Okay. Then if we look at USD JPY, right, there is a possibility for it to rise towards this pivot point and then fall further towards the first support. However, another possibility is if price breaks past this pivot point, it will retest and come towards this first resistance level, and then this could be another sell. This could be another potential huge sell opportunity right here, right? Because this first resistance level aligns with the number one 61.8% Fibo retracement level in the overall major trend, as well as the 78.6% Fibo projection over here. Alright, so this could be a stronger level because there is Fibo confluence, right? However, we are looking at a downward movement, at least to the first support level. So we are selling, sell to buy. Okay, so we are selling here to buy over here. Alright, so that is the overall outlook for USD JPY. Oops. Let me see. Bearish. Okay, USD CHF. Okay, so for the overall outlook for USD CHF, wow, very strong bearish trend. I think it might take a while for USD CHF to recover. Okay, so let me take a look. Has this gone past 50%? Yes. Okay, if we are taking a look at this negative 21, okay, this shall be our wow. Let's see, pivot point for support. Pivot point. Failed to. Okay, give me a sec. Let me take a look at this. This should be our, no doubt, this is our first resistance level. This could possibly be our first support, and then this is our pivot point. Yes, okay, this makes more sense. H4 for USD CHF, H4. Okay, what is this color? Negative 27. Okay, pivot point for support. Alright, I think this is fine. Let me take a look. $61 and 78.6. Okay, we have chosen this as our first resistance because it is a overlap resistance level. And then for this pivot point, right, what we are looking at is a possibility of a pattern like this, right? Looking at a double bottom right here, right? Why is that so? Because price actually failed to take out this low, this previous swing low support level right here. All right, so if you look at market structure, lower low, lower high, failed to create a lower low, so possibility for it to come above towards this first resistance level over here. Okay, so this is what I am looking at for USD CHF. Okay, I think it's pretty straightforward. This is a little bit tricky, not straightforward in a sense, but a little bit tricky, right? Because we also have a first support level right here that aligns with the negative 27.2% Fibo expansion level, right? As well as the 78.6% Fibo projection level. Alright, so this has extra Fibo confluence right here as well. Alright, so if this pivot point doesn't work out, right, we also have this level to work with as well. Okay, this is what I am looking at for USD CHF. Alright, then here comes the important part, USD CAD, because we have a lot of CAD news upcoming this week, right? So let's take a look at where we might. If you look at USD CAD, right, it's trading within this zone, right? Waiting to either break out towards the upside, or trade, or continue to trade within this zone. All right, so let's take a look, right? There could be a possibility that price continues to trade within this area right here, so we could use this as our pivot point, right? Because there isn't a clear sign that price might break out of this area. All right, then as for our resistance level, our resistance area, let me see how many pips is this. 90. Yeah. Okay, so this could be 90. This is 90 pips. Okay, this is our resistance level. And as for our support shall be this multi-swing low support level right here. Okay, so we are looking at a bearish outlook for USD CAD, right? Bearish arrow USD. Okay, let's see. Bearish USD. I think there is a high chance there is a projection. Yes, 78.6 and 78.6% Fibo projection level. All right, then let's see. Most probably there is also a 61.8%, yes, 61.8% Fibo retracement level at the first resistance area right here. Okay, so this should be a pretty simple trade if you want to enter this USD trade, right? You can enter off here, stop loss around here, TP. So it's about 1:2 risk to reward ratio. You could reduce it by placing it above this high to get a better risk to reward ratio, right? But I would suggest extend it a little bit, right about here, to get a 1:2 risk to reward ratio. Okay, this is for USD CAD. All right, then let's cover the last two majors before we move on to the commodities. All right, so for AUD USD, right? AUD USD is a little bit, has been trading within this area, right? I don't really like AUD USD that much because it doesn't really have a lot of movements, right? But if you trade within this channel all the way, okay, if you have been trading within this bullish channel, right, I think you would have made quite a sum of money because price has been trading within this bullish channel. Okay, so let's see, bullish, this is pivot point, and then we are looking at this area for our support. And then as for our resistance, we will reference this area over here. Okay, let's take a look. I think it aligns with the 78.6%. Yep, aligns with the 78.6% Fibo retracement level. Okay, so this is a perfect buy opportunity right here. All right, then let's see if we are able to also find projection. Might be the 100%. Yep, we are looking at it right here. Okay, so we have 78.6% Fibo retracement level as well as 100% Fibo projection right here at our pivot point. Alright, so this is a buy continuation. I think this is a pretty solid trade right here. So if price ever comes down to this pivot point, right, looking at market structure, it broke this high already, so naturally it will react to this pivot point and create a higher high. Okay, this is what we could look at. Alright, so this is for AUD USD. And then I think it has a pretty nice risk to reward ratio as well, right? Because we will have something like this, and then our take profit is right about this resistance level. So it is 1:3.87, almost 1:4 risk to reward ratio. Okay, then next up we have NZD USD. Okay, so for NZD USD, let's see, break pass could possibly create a new, let me see, pivot point, resist, support. Okay, so for NZD USD, most probably we will place this as our pivot point, and then we will use this as our first support area, and then we will use this as our resistance point. Okay, so this is what we might be looking at for NZD USD. Okay, so if we are looking right here at this, same thing, right? Very similar to AUD USD, right? NZD USD, we have 78.6% Fibo retracement level, which aligns with the 100% Fibo projection level at our pivot point. So this is another buy trade, right? If you guys realize, AUD USD aligns very nicely with NZD USD most of the time, right? So yes, could possibly, and if you look right here, this is a very nice demand zone area. Okay, so this could be a nice buy opportunity as well. Okay, let's move on to oil. Okay, so for oil, what I am actually looking at is this level over here, right? This very common level that price might react to. Okay, this is our pivot point. Why I chose this level is because we have multiple touches over here, right? Multiple touches, and price could potentially react to this pivot point to create bullish momentum, right? So far over the past few weeks, price has been trading within this zone, so we are waiting for it to have a little breakout towards the downside and then create a upward momentum. So I am looking at a something like a fake breakout, right? React to this pivot point and then have a bullish momentum. Because if you look at the right here, we could potentially wait for price to be oversold, right, at the 30 RSI area. Okay, soon it might be at the 30 RSI, and then we can take buys from there. Okay, so let me see, yeah, this could be our support level, first support, and then this is our first resistance over here. Okay, this is what I am looking at. Alright, pivot point, bullish momentum. Let me see if we are able to find any #61 and 78.6, and then okay, so our pivot point aligns nicely with the 61.8% and the 78.6% Fibo retracement level, right? So this acts as a feeble confluence for us to take buys on oil for those that are trading XTI USD. All right, so this is crude oil. All right, so let's move on to gold. Okay, so for gold right now, it actually broke past a bullish trend line, right? So let's see how it might actually react to this level over here. Because DXY is sells, so we are looking for buys. Okay, so if you look at the overall structure right here, we have a bullish trend line. Okay, bullish trend line. Then what we can look at is a buy opportunity over here. This could be our pivot point, right? Because price failed to create a lower low right here, right? So what we are looking at, and price already have a break of structure over here, so we are expecting for price to react off the trend line as well as our pivot point to create a higher high. All right, and as for our support, we will place it right about here. And then for our resistance, we are looking at this high over here. So this might be a little bit far-fetched, but price could potentially come up to this high over here, or even create a new high towards the end of towards the next few weeks. All right, this is the overall outlook for gold. Okay, let me see. Okay, and it aligns nicely with our 78.6% feeble retracement level for our pivot point. Okay, let me see. Is it possible? Yep, as well as this 61.8% feeble projection level over here. Okay, so this is what we are looking at for gold. Right, this could be a potential strong trade right here. It might be a bit confusing, right? But basically we are using projection as well as feeble retracement to mark out our level for buys. Okay, so far we already see some rejection, but price could potentially come even lower, right about this level over here. Okay, so this could be our buy zone here. This could potentially be our buy zone, okay, for our pivot point. All right, so now let's take a look at indices. Okay, let's see. Wow, indices has been on the rise. Okay, let's take a look. Okay, price has created a high, so we can mark out our 127.2%. Okay, so this is something that we can look at. 127.2%. Let's see. This could be our pivot point. then this could be our resistance. Pivot point, first resistance, let me see. Okay, then this shall be our first support. Yep, this looks nice. Okay, so we might be able to see a huge reversal, okay, because we are looking at price to react at our pivot point, which is close to the 127.2% Fibo extension level. So this might, once we have extension level, price might be able to react off there, right, and have a reversal. Okay, so this is what we might be looking at for US 30. Okay, bearish. Okay, so yeah, this is for US 30. Alright, so let's see, let's cover, how about S&P? Wow, S&P has created all-time highs. Okay. Let me see. Okay, this could be our pivot point. Okay, this could be our first support. This could be our first resistance, and then our pivot point is of course right here, because we want to continue the strong momentum, right? And then we have our first support over here, right, which is a pullback support level. Okay, so that is what I could probably find for S&P 500. Okay, so because if you are looking at the overall picture, this is all we can find, right? Bullish arrow. Okay, so let's cover, how about BTC USD? Okay, so let's cover BTC USD and then we shall end off the session. Alright, so for BTC USD, right now you can see it is consolidating, right? So why not, let's ride the bullish momentum and enter buys. Okay, so what we are looking at is we want to enter buys. Alright, then this shall be our support, our first support, and of course this, we shall mark this extreme high as our first resistance level over here. Okay, so because what we are looking at for Bitcoin, it likes to do certain patterns. Once it has such a strong movement upwards, it will consolidate a bit, right, and then afterwards it will create another strong movement, right? Bitcoin likes to do a lot of these flat patterns. Okay, so if you guys trade Bitcoin, right, I'll suggest to wait for price to tap into this pivot point area again, and then you can take buys. Alright, so if you were to look at this, let me see, okay, 50%. Yeah, that's all. I think that's all I can find for BTC USD. Okay, so that's pretty straightforward. Alright, so that's the end of my session to you guys. Alright. Okay, thank you for tuning in yet again to another IC Markets pre-markets live analysis. Alright, I hope that you guys stay safe and trade safe. Alright, I shall see you guys again next time. Okay, bye bye.